this is Jamie Magritte. Welcome to Jamie's Craft Table. Today I'm going to show you how to make this card. So let's get started here. Well, let's go over these first and then we'll get into the cardstock. I'm using the Playful alphabet dies. The majority of the card is the Floral Square dies. There's not much left in there because I've got them out. And I'm using just the sending part of this sentiment. I actually cut it so I could just use that sentiment. So these are the dies I'm using. I'm using this one here. I've cut it out twice. Once out of black, once out of old olive. This one here, again, once out of black, once out of old olive. The coordinating dies that go with it. This one, and this is melon mambo. I was wanting to say magenta madness, but I knew that wasn't right. This one I cut out twice, so I have 6 little flowers there. And then I've got the hugs from this letters dies from the Playful alphabet dies. Okay, so for paper, just so you could see, I used a 1 by 3 inch piece to cut both the flowers and the words. This one's black. This is the melon mambo. I have a tiny little scrap of simply Marbleous DSP. This is a gray, and that's to stamp the sentiment on. It'll be cut down. It's just a scrap. I have a scrap of white. This happens to be 2 by 4 inches, and that will cut out. This is what I cut out these with. And then I have a scrap of green, which needs to be about the same size, 2 by 4 1/4 or 2 by 4. It could probably be even a little bit narrower, and that's what I used to cut out these with. I have 2 1 3/4 by 1 3/4 inch squares of the gray designer series paper. I have 1 of 4 by 5 1/4 of the Simply Marbleous designer series paper. This is the pink pattern out of it. I have a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch piece of black cardstock. And then I have my card base, which is thick, which is 5 1/2 by 8 1/2, scored and folded at 4 1/4. Go on, Bat. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, go ahead and mount these 2 together. And again, that's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and the designer series paper is 4 by 5 1/4. Let's go ahead and mount this black layer to the front of my card. Should be the same size as the front of the card. And this one, I'm going to use this satiny looking side for this piece. Center that up, and it's a 1/4 inch smaller, so it will have an 1/8 of an inch border all the way around it. Okay, now we can set that aside. The only stamping in is going to be a sentiment sending. I'm going to use Memento black ink, and I did cut this off. You could just mask it if you want. I just find it easier. I think I'd use it more this way. Okay, that's not bad, but I'm going to stamp it again because I pressed a little too hard. Alright, I'm going to set that aside to dry because I need to trim it out. Okay, let's move these out of the way. So let's bring in our black pieces. I'm keeping the dot in the center, but you don't have to. And I'm bringing in these 1 3/4 inch by 1 3/4 inch pieces of Designer Series paper. And I'm going to put glue on the back of the black piece. Just a little bit. Oh. Then I'm just going to center this up on behind that black piece. And for this one I'm using this side, not the satin side, the one that actually looks like marble. I'll do the same thing for this one. Whoops, well, I guess my dot fell out. It's alright, I'm putting a gem in there anyway, so. Okay. Center this up on there. Okay. Those are those pieces. Now I'm going to come in with these green pieces. I'm bringing my snips or a sharp, small pair of scissors. I'm going to cut off this edges. And I'm not going to worry about if it's curved or anything. I'm just going to trim off any pointiness. Cut straight across where the edges are, like that. If you use a slightly smaller piece of paper, it'll do that automatically for you, and you don't have to worry about that part. Then you're going to come in any place there's that little, see the little sharp point there, we're going to clip those off. There's one here. Okay, I'm going to do the same on this one. Snip it out. It's basically I'm butting my scissors up against that frame and snipping. Okay. Then again, I'm going to go around, see all those little pointy things on there? I don't want those. So I'm going to go and snip those off. It just takes a little bit of and you don't have to do that. I just found it looked neater when I did. Okay. Now we're going to take our glue and we're going to adhere these right over the top of the black piece, leaving the black frame along the outside. Right over the top. If you want to leave a little bit of the black showing, you can. I chose to just kind of cover it up. Do this one too. Just little bits of glue. You don't need much because you really don't want it oozing out. And I like the wet glue because you can, like you saw there, I had to push that into place. Gives you that time to do that. A little tiny bit of wiggle room. Okay. Now we're going to take these pieces that we cut out. These. This one I'm going to glue down flat. Oh, I should have figured out where it went first. Oh, I got lucky. Nope, that's not right. That's the one trick with this flower. You've got to make sure it's lined up. There we go. And this part, the flower, we're going to let stick out over the top of the frame. So that piece is done, except for the gem in the middle. Now this one, I've got 4 flat and then 1 that pops up on top. So that one down. That one down. Whoops. That one down. That one down. I'm going to bring in the tiny dimensionals. The little baby ones. And I'm going to put a dimensional on the back of one of these. And I'm going to fill in that last spot there. Okay. Now we're going to come in with holiday rhinestones and the yellow ones. And I'm going to take this middle size one, the yellow ones, and center in the center of that flower, and then these small ones on each one of these flowers. They're self-adhesive. I like that. Makes it much easier. Awesome. Okay, let's move these aside. Okay. Oops. Now we're going to put dimensionals on the back of these. You can use the little ones since you have them out, but I'm going to go ahead and bring in the larger ones. And I put 4 on the back of each one. I'm going to bring in our card base. Take the backs off. Now I use tweezers for this because it just helped me get it straighter. I'm going to hold it, and I want it to be about 1/2 of an inch from the bottom and 1/2 of an inch from this side. And you think you got it straight, go ahead and put it down. And then this one's going to be the same, but on the top 2 corners. Looks good. Now we're going to bring in our hugs. I'm just going to use wet glue. This is what I really needed the tweezers for. So I'm going to put a little wet glue on the back. Line up the H. It's about 1/4 inch from the bottom. Maybe a little bit more than that. Or less than that. Make sure I got the S the right side up. There is one side that's a little bit fatter than the other. I like to put that one at the bottom, but you can do it the other way. It just makes it look like a little bit more of a wonky S. Okay, now we're going to bring in our sentiment. I'm going to snip off. And then I'm going to cut pretty close to it. I'm just going to use my snips. If I didn't cut it too small, I'll put some of these baby dimensionals on the back. Might have cut it too small, so I'm going to use this little bit of edge here. If I can get it. A little bit long, so I'm going to just snip that off. Okay. That's not very sticky because it didn't have any backing on it, so I'm going to go ahead and put some adhesive on it. And I'm going to put it where I want it. I kept playing with it. I'm still not totally happy with where I put it, but there we go. And then we've got one more of those little flowers. Let's put a little baby dimensional on the back of it. Add that down here. Add one more of those gems. Rhinestones right over that center. And there we go. There's the card we just made. Here's the one we did previous. Well, thank you so much for joining me today at Jamie's Craft Table. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I hope you can find a little bit of time to play with some stamps, ink, and paper.